What's up, guys? It's me, Cody Decker. We're doing something a little different today. We are going to actually do a little interview, a little live interview with Lucas Giolito, all-star pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. We're doing this for the the El Paso Border Youth Athletic Association. As you can see, there you can make as many comments as you like. You can ask questions. It's a live Q&A. Don't hesitate to ask your questions. If it's a good question, I'll make sure I post it up in the thing. I'll give you a quick little background. I've known Lucas since he was a little kid. I've known his family since he was a kid. He was kind of always a special, not just baseball player, but person as well. And I think he's the perfect person to ask these type of questions to. This is our first time trying this, so bear with us a little bit. We'll have a decent amount of people watching, probably not a ton, but I'm really excited to have Lucas join us. I cannot stress to you guys enough, not just a ball player, how hard he works, but he's just a quality human being, and I'm really glad he's joining us today. In fact, here he is now. He's fresh off another interview because, quite frankly, I'm assuming he's one of the most busy guys in baseball right now. He is Lucas Giolito. Lucas, what's up, buddy?
What's up, Cody? How's it going?
Doing good, man. Just hanging out. I'm actually over in my parents' back house right now doing this.
Nice.
Uh,
Decker's dock.
so that's right. You've been here many times, guys. If you guys can post a comment into the comment section. I could see them. I can post your questions up on the screen for Lucas to see. Don't hesitate. There are no dumb questions. I mean, it's pretty exciting anytime, I've always known him as Lucas, but anytime you have a major league all-star in front of you, because that's now how I see him, as just major league all-star Lucas Giolito now. You take advantage of the situation if you can, but Lucas, I'll just go ahead and start. Thanks for doing this, by the way, for the Border Youth Athletic Association. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. Happy to help.
You grew up in Santa Monica, California. You went to Harvard Westlake High School. You were pretty special early on. But when did you really know that your skills were already next level, that you knew that you could take the next step past high school? I know it was early on, but how early, and what was it you saw in yourself, both physically and mentally, that you can do that?
Yeah, so I'd say the physical definitely came well before the mental. For me, I always threw very hard off a hill. I would, the velocity was always there. So that was kind of like the first indicator, being able to throw really hard. And I'd say realizing like, okay, I can take this to, the college level and then even the professional level was probably when we started to put things together. And I say we because it took a village. It wasn't just me. I didn't like figure a bunch of things out on my own. I was good to go. The raw talent was there, but it took a lot of hard work, building muscle memory, building correct mechanics, working with all sorts of different coaches. And I'd say probably when I was like 15 and I started to be able to throw the ball over the plate consistently and be able to throw a breaking ball over the plate consistently is when I kind of looked at it like, okay, this is something that I can actually pursue as a career.
Mm-hmm. Early on, you mentioned working with several coaches, and like I did, like most ball players who got to the very highs and the very lows of all of professional baseball, and even college baseball. I know you skipped out on college, but you were also a guy that was drafted very high in the first round. You were arguably one of the top prospects in the country at the time. But you mentioned all the coaches you had. How many of the coaches were you able to take something away from every one of them, even the coaches that may not have been as knowledgeable as you would have liked? I've told people this all the time. I have played for as many coaches who knew nothing as coaches who knew something, but I still try to take one positive thing away from all of them. Was anything that hindered you or helped you along the way in working with some of these coaches?
100%. I mean, I think back to like my first ever pitching coach was Tim Leary out in like the Pacific Palisades. My dad got me pitching lessons with him. And, I was like 9, 10, 11 years old. And he just told me he was telling me the basic of the basic, like up, down, out, glove out, strong. But I was working with an ex big leaguer, a guy that had pitched in the World Series, and that kind of just jump started it. Going into high school, playing for Matt LaCour, his baseball program. I mean, we were Harvard Westlake baseball program. Our practices were 3 hours long every single day. It was ran like a college program. Learning discipline from a young age, the amount of work it takes to be successful. Ethan Katz came aboard as a pitching coach my sophomore year. I still work with him to this day. I'm like texting him every day now. Oh, I'm doing this with my slider. We need to work on this, work on that. He was a huge part in me kind of realizing my potential as an amateur, putting things together. Like I said before, learning how to throw strikes, and then getting into pro ball. I had coaches in pro ball that, they want to like kind of imprint something on you, whether that be good for your career or bad. And I think a big part as you navigate through pro ball is always listening and being coachable, but you don't want to be like too coachable, if that makes sense. Like there's some things that you do that might be a little different from everyone else, but if that works for you, then you got to keep doing it. And I like you said, I try to take something positive from every single coach I've ever had. And if a coach gives you advice or tells you to do something mechanically or whatever it may be, and you don't agree with it and it doesn't feel right, it's okay to not force yourself to do it. And I think sometimes over the course of my career, as in the minor leagues, I would listen too much and I would try to do too much, and that did lead to some issues. But it's part of growing as a player and learning. I've definitely had a lot more positive experience with coaches than negative. And I think that you can find the positive in any of them. I mean, at the end of the day, they're there to help you, and they want to see you be successful.
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, I've played for plenty of coaches that were not great, but it's not that they were bad. It's just they didn't have things that worked for me. And that there's a thing about that, like you, just to piggyback off what you said, it's not that there's not one way to do almost anything in baseball. There are plenty of things you can do that are, mechanically sound. You mentioned working with Tim Leary. Those of you guys who are watching, and thank you for watching, guys, in the BYAA or any other players in El Paso that are joining us. Those of you guys don't know who Tim Leary is. He was a big leaguer for about 15 years, was a Dodger, won a World Series in 1988. He is a very knowledgeable pitching coach. In fact, he was a pitching coach at UCLA for years. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Your other pitching coach, your coach in high school, LaCour.
Ethan,
you work with Ethan Katz now. Ethan Katz is one of the better pitching coaches, well known through Southern California. Not to mention, does he still work with is it the Angels or Mariners now?
He was with the Mariners. He was pitching coordinator. He actually is the assistant pitching coach for the San Francisco Giants in the big leagues now, under Kapler. So yeah, I mean, it was a matter of time for him to become a big league pitching coach, and now he's there. We were, me, Max Fried, Jack Flaherty, we all knew that he was going to get to that point. And,
extremely knowledgeable guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. Watched him work with you plenty of times. He's very, very good at what he does. Also, you mentioned going to Harvard Westlake and how your schedule at Harvard Westlake, how difficult it was. And those of you guys who are watching, and girls that are watching, a lot of high schools have, some demanding schedules. I cannot stress to you enough. Harvard Westlake at the time, especially, you guys were #1 nationally ranked, correct?
Yeah, I think that like preseason ranks before me and Max's senior year, it was actually Jack Flaherty's sophomore year. I think we were preseason ranked 1. And we played very, very well. Unfortunately, I ended up blowing my arm out, so I didn't really get to pitch that much my senior year. But the team did very well. It actually was Jack, like 2 seasons later, or even the next year, I don't remember, that ended up leading the team to, winning CIF, winning the national title, all that stuff. So kind of we built a winning culture that Harvard Westlake still maintains today.
Mhm. Absolutely, they do. And the schedule you had there, and you did equate it very much to a college schedule. Now, I know you didn't play in college, but I can verify that for you. So my schedule at UCLA, very demanding. Granted, it might have been a little bit more hectic back then, and it's not quite as hectic now as it was then. I think we've learned a lot more about you know, physical health than we did then. Back then, everything was rah, rah, go, 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 pushing basically until you break down. And that's not how things are done now. People are still working extremely hard, but they're working way smarter. Your schedule in high school, I saw it firsthand, extremely hectic to the point where I was almost confused. And the team has gotten just as smarter as anybody else has gotten now. So they still work hard, but it's not quite the schedule that it was. And we did have one question so far right now. This is from Eduardo Rodriguez. What was your motivation to continue playing at the pro level and keep working hard?
Oh man, to achieve the ultimate goal, getting to the big leagues. And then once you get to the big leagues, that goal changes into, okay, now I need to stay in the big leagues. Um, when you're a kid, you dream of playing in the World Series, you dream of winning awards, playing and having a very long career, but you don't understand the amount of work it takes, both physically and I'd say even more so mentally, to be able to play at that level for that long. And I'm still in that learning process. I'm 25 now. I have a couple seasons in the major leagues under my belt, but you never stop learning, you never stop growing as a player until the day you retire. And I've learned that from a lot of veterans, and a lot of coaches that I've had. And that's something that I'm going to keep with me as I continue through my career. You can never, ever be satisfied. There's always something that you can improve, especially on the mental side. Big league season is very, very taxing, very long, and there's a lot of ways that you can let things slip. So you have to make sure that you have a very strong foundation, very good routine, so that you can continue to play at the highest level.
And I can't echo that enough. The amount of work you have to continue to do once you achieve that dream. You got called up in 2016, and what was so fun about that? It was personally exciting for me, because not just because I've known you for so long, but I was at a weird crossroads of my career at the time. That I got released by the Rockies. I signed with the Red Sox, and I had to go back to Double-A because it was the only place they had a job open. So I went to Double-A in the Eastern League, where you happened to be, and I got to face you one game, and I'll never forget it. And I even called you after the game because you mowed us down the first 3 innings like that. It was staggering how we were nowhere near your fastball. Then the 4th inning came along, and you stopped throwing your fastball almost entirely, and you were throwing nothing but breaking balls. And I remember my first at bat against you, I think I grounded out. My second at bat, I worked a walk. And I remember you had me 0-2, and I was dead to rights. I'm like, he's just got me today. I'm not feeling it. And then it was just breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball. I ended up being a long at bat, and I worked a walk, and we ended up scoring a few runs off you.
Yeah.
And you ended up, I think, getting pulled early in the 5th. And I asked you after the game, what were you doing? What was your thought process there? Because we couldn't touch you. And then you almost like you changed up your entire game plan. Was that a game that ever stood out in your mind? Because I remember that quite a bit. You getting off your fastball and all of a sudden going to your breaking ball and coming to a lot of trouble. Was that ever stick out in your eye? I mean, you got to the big leagues like 2 weeks later, and I couldn't have been happier. This was not like something that was detrimental to you. It was just, was that a game that you may have thought possibly you learned something from?
Absolutely. I remember that start. I also remember you were teammates with Yohan Moncada, my current teammate, and he hit like a 120-mile-an-hour laser beam off of me over the first baseman's head. I was like, man, I don't want to face this guy anymore. And now he's my teammate, so it's all good. That game did stand out to me. A couple things from it, actually. One, I didn't prepare well for that game. I think I was late to my warm up. I kind of rushed through my long toss and my bullpen, and it didn't matter in the beginning because my fastball was working and we
Mhm.
were throwing a lot of fastballs. But then there's that, like, I think that this can happen a lot in the minor leagues. It's like you're worried, you instead of competing, you start to try to like work on things. You start to try to be like, you want to like trick people. It's like, oh, well, my fastball's been working, but I got to make sure that I throw X amount of curveballs or X amount of sliders. And, I really want to see myself throw this pitch for a strike. But when you start thinking about things like that, when you're in the middle of a game, when you're competing, you're not going to get good results. And sure enough, it led to me walking batters and having long at bats and laboring. And like you said, I think I was out of that game in like the fourth or fifth inning. And I learned a lot from that game. Is that when you're competing, you got to keep riding what's working. And I don't think that I fully learned that lesson just from that game. I had a lot more games like that. I had, seasons where I was like trying to work on things and work through, mechanical issues or, trying to throw certain pitches. It wasn't until last season that I really just started pitching with confidence. And if I'm blowing heaters by guys, I'm going to keep throwing that heater until they're showing me that they can hit it. If my changeups are working, I'm going to keep throwing that changeup. If my slider's working, I'm going to keep throwing that slider. It's way easier to pitch if you're keeping things simple and you're just competing. If you have full, what's the word? You have like full confidence in that pitch you're throwing right now in this moment. I think that there are times in that game and many, many other games where it's like, oh, well, I should throw a curveball here because I just threw a high heater, and the curveball will play well off of that. You're thinking all that kind of stuff in the middle of competing. You're putting yourself in a bad spot.
I mean, hitting the nail on the head.
Mhm.
And we're getting some great questions now coming in about you. John, he's asked, were there ever times in your career that you thought you hit a plateau, and how did you over? Great question, Joshua.
Yeah, I'd say that kind of like 16, 17, 18. I was like AAA big leagues, AAA big leagues. Um, I wasn't making any improvements. I knew, like, I wouldn't say plateau because like I knew that there was a better player, a better pitcher in there somewhere.
Mhm.
It's like I could call it two different types of confidence. Like the overall confidence of like, okay, I'm going to have a good career. I'm going to play well. That wasn't really budging, but like the day-to-day confidence, the like in-game confidence was like always low, 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 low. A bad thing would happen in the first inning. I'd give up like a home run in the first inning or walk a couple batters in the first inning. And it's like it would just shoot down and I'm pitching with no confidence. And so I'd say that was kind of like this plateau that I was stuck on of not like fully believing in myself. One, and then two, being afraid to try different things, being afraid to like really just put myself out there, make an adjustment, um, so that I could see myself, take a step forward. And, even though I'm putting myself in a position that might be uncomfortable, knowing that, going there and doing something different will, at the end of the day, help me become a better player overall. And so I'd say that like I learned from that like plateau, I guess you could say, that hey, I need to make some changes and it's going to be weird, it's going to feel different, but I know that if I 100% fully invest myself in this, then I'm going to become better and I'm going to be more consistent.
Mhm. Another great question. You mentioned that you had Tommy John surgery. You had it pretty young.
Mhm.
Freddy Nunez wants to know, how did you prepare yourself when you got Tommy John? How did you work to get back on track?
Yeah, so I wasn't very prepared for like, blowing my elbow out at 17 years old. I was very fortunate that I still got drafted in the first round by the Nationals, and I was happy to be in that organization because, they had Steven Strasburg. He blew out, he rehabbed, came back, and he's one of the best pitchers in the league. So I was kind of putting my trust in the organization I was with, in the medical staff. Um, Ended up having the surgery, and there were definitely a lot of tough times, a lot of times where the confidence was down. It's like, am I ever going to come back? Am I going to be myself? But the biggest part was just waking up every day with a purpose of, okay, I have this in physical therapy. This is my throwing program. I'm going to give it my 100%. I'm putting my trust in, the medical knowledge behind the surgery, the success rate, and I'm not going to let a day go by where I'm just like, I don't feel like it today. This work is too boring, it's too monotonous. In the early stages of TJ rehab, like, you're doing a lot of really boring stuff. The Job exercises and the like stretching, um, all the physical therapy work. It really sucks and it's super boring, and you feel like you're not really making a ton of improvements immediately. You're not getting that instant gratification. But I told myself, like, if I'm going to come back strong, then I need to learn what this is all about, and I need to give my full 100% every single day. And so I ended up coming back from the surgery feeling very, very good. My velocity was there. Everything was there. My first full season back, kind of put myself back on the map as like a top prospect, and it all ended up working out pretty well.
Yeah, it did, and it really did. And by the way, who did do surgery? Was it Elytrage or Yoakum?
No, it was Yoakum.
You
Yeah,
went
rest in
Yoakum.
peace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. Those of you who don't know, Yoakum, Dr. Yoakum was one of the, no, really one of the top maybe three best surgeons of all time.
Yeah.
Frank. You heard him mention Job exercises. Frank Job invented the Tommy John
Hmm.
surgery, and Yoakum was one of the people that worked underneath him. Same with Dr. Elytrage. They are basically, if there was a Mount Rushmore of people when it came to pitching injuries, it's those three.
Yeah.
Kind of piggyback off that, Eddie Rodriguez did ask, when did you decide to skip college, and what was going through your mind as you made that choice? You were set to go to play at UCLA, my alma mater,
Oh
and
yeah.
you ended up going in the first round. What led to that decision? Because I can only imagine that had to be a very tough decision, specifically, like you just said, fresh off Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. I was emphatic about going to UCLA. I grew up, a bike ride away from Jackie Robinson Field. I would watch you play there. I'd watch Garrett Cole pitch. I watched Trevor Bauer pitch there. It was like a dream of mine to go and play baseball there. Play under Coach Savage, one of the best, college uh, baseball coaches, pitching coaches out there. Um, but what ended up happening was I got drafted in the first round. I didn't end up signing until like there was minutes left on the clock.
August 15th.
And yeah, it was like the deadline day. It was a crazy, crazy day. Um, the injury had a huge part to do with it. It was, am I going to go to college and like redshirt a season and get the surgery and rehab while in college? Or do I want to go to a professional organization that has been, rehabbing Tommy John injuries for countless players,
Mm-hmm.
including a lot of top level big leaguers? I mentioned Steven Strasburg. That was a huge part of it. I think that I made the right choice. Obviously, money is a factor. Um, so it was a difficult choice, but at the end of the day, I did want to get my career started, and I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity presented to me.
Mm-hmm. Follow-up question. Someone did ask how long, Mikey asking, how long did it take for you to recover from your arm blowout?
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird process. I tore it. It was like my third or fourth start of my senior season in high school. I tore the ligament, but it wasn't a full tear. So it was one of those weird ones where I got PRP injections and did rest and rehab. And after all of that, I'd have like good days and bad days. I'd have days where it's like, man, I feel like I can't even throw a baseball, and I have days where I felt like completely fine, 100% fine. which was almost worse because because if it was just one or the other, it would have been like, okay, cool, I'm getting surgery, or no, I'm good to go. I'm gonna ramp up and pitch, and everything's fine. So that was kind of mentally taxing. But I ended up getting drafted, signing with the Nationals. We tried to, rehab it further, and it ended up being my first professional game in the Gulf Coast League, Chain Link Fence League, where,
Oof, tough.
yeah, my first start, I think it was against the Marlins, and it was like my 11th or 12th pitch of the inning, and I tried to put a little bit more on a fastball, and that's when it completely went out. And
Mm.
so it was almost a relief. It really was, because like I said, good days, bad days, big question mark. I didn't really know what was going to happen. When it actually went fully and I knew I had to get the surgery for real, it was almost a relief, and ended up working out pretty good.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine that, taking all these like 9 options off the table and like, listen, this is what you're doing, calling it a day. I mean, it's good to
Yeah.
have that right in front of you. Someone asked a follow-up question on that, and I'd like to piggyback off of it because I think this is a very interesting question. What type of workouts did you do for your arm while you were recovering? And into that, what are your workouts like now? I've had the pleasure of working out with you a few times. You work out as hard as just about anybody I've seen. I don't think people realize how much physical training and proper functional training goes in
Oh yeah.
to being a pro athlete. If you think players are coming off the couch and playing baseball, you're way off. So I would love for you to talk about while you were recovering, of course, but also now, how much you actually put in now.
Yeah. So what kind of workouts for my arm? Recovering from Tommy John, like just the physical therapy stuff in the beginning. I actually did put on some bad weight uh, in that process, because I wasn't like conditioning, a lot of the just physical therapy stuff. That's like, I'm talking like I said, the Job exercises, the extension, getting your extension back in your elbow, the manual work with the trainers and physical therapists. All that stuff was super, super boring. But like, I kind of told myself, like, if I have 15 reps, I'm doing 15 reps. Like, I'm there, I can't go in to, this 2 hour physical therapy session and just half ass it, because I'm going to do myself a disservice later on. Like, if I want the surgery to work for me and I want it to work for a long time, then I need to put in that work right now.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly what exercises I was doing. I don't remember what a lot of them were called, but a lot of that stuff I actually do to this day. I'd say that over the last couple of years, I've actually ramped up my like shoulder care routine even more so. In the White Sox organization, we introduced a more advanced shoulder care routine last season that I loved, and we're continuing to build on that. A lot of manual work, um, a lot of band work. Um, yeah, and so then kind of segueing into like my current workout routine, ended up I I didn't have a lot of knowledge. I still don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to like biomechanics, body movements. I have a little bit. Early on in my professional career, I would just kind of show up, and I had a trainer, and we'd work out hard, but I didn't really know what I was getting out of it. I started working out with Matt Yohara, my current trainer, who has a master's in human movement. So like, he knows how the body's supposed to function. As soon as I started working out with him, Max works out with him too. He started studying pitching, all the biomechanics of pitching, uh, from the ground up. And we implement that kind of stuff into our workouts every single day. A big part of it is communicating. Hey, like my right hip feels tight, or my shoulder in this area doesn't feel like it's moving as well as it could. Like, boom, we have a bunch of exercises ready to go. Right now, I'm lifting 4 days a week, 2 lower body lifts, 2 upper body lifts. For me, a lot of it is stability stuff. when it comes to the leg lifts, a lot of isolated, I guess you could say like deadlift type movements,
Mhm.
single leg, um, holds. Like I hate holds, but it's a big part of having that stability and strength. I didn't really learn how to properly use my legs for pitching until a couple years ago, and that part of that was actually learning how my legs are supposed to work and building the strength and stability in the key muscle groups for that. And a big part is glutes and hamstrings. I was always quad dominant, and then over the last couple of years, really building that strength in the glutes and hamstrings, the stability as well. That's a huge part of what I do every single day. Upper body stuff, again, just crushing the shoulder work. A lot of stuff for the serratus, which is like a
Yeah,
muscle.
about to say by shoulder work. What specifically do you mean? I don't want any of the kids to be watching this and be like, all right, he said shoulder work. I'm going to go shoulder press 80 pounds for the next
Yeah, yeah,
week.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I never ever touch a I never ever touch straight bar bench press. Um there's certain things like, yes, you do want to put on that good muscle mass, but at the same time, the smaller muscles like your rotator cuff muscles, that's what you want to keep very strong and stable. That's in my opinion what's most important for arm health. And so we a lot of like a lot of weird stuff. You got TRX stuff, you got like face pulls with the TRX, you got like
Mhm.
Y's, T's. um I I really like rows. You can get pretty heavy with the rows for your back. And we do have a lot of serratus stuff. I couldn't tell you exactly what the serratus is. It's a muscle. It's a muscle that kind of like runs from like back here and then under. And I believe it like attaches to your lat, maybe.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a lot more located within your scaps, correct?
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
right under your scaps, and
yeah.
so like serratus, like push-ups, where you're doing a push-up, but like you're moving your shoulder kind of in and out like that.
Mhm.
That kind of work where you are building strength in like the position where it's locked back, but you also want to have that strength and stability when everything's pushed out forward as well. Because like you think about throwing a baseball, you're not throwing a baseball with everything like flexed and together. You want to be loose and free, and you want to let things extend, but you want to make sure that you have that stability in there so that it can support that.
Mhm. You mentioned your trainer, Matt. Matt does a lot of work with Brent Dean, and a lot of people watching this right now know Brent Dean quite well. He's actually currently in El Paso, getting. They've done BYAA athletics over there in El Paso at the facility of the base. So they've done a decent amount of work together. In fact, you've worked out of BYAA over in LA quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And just another thing on this race, it's something I did, and it helped me quite a bit, is that I didn't really realize, and I took for granted most of my career, was scap mobility.
Yes.
How much that helped me those last 2 years of my career with arm issues, because when I went to spring training, I played every position. So I had to go to the catchers, then I had to go to the infielders, then I had to go to the outfielders, and I'm throwing from all these positions. Next thing you know, I can't lift my arm at the end of the day. And I
Hmm.
think, I love doing Job exercises, but what really helped me personally was crossover symmetry. That really
Yeah.
kind of helped really my scap mobilization. It helped my strengthening my scaps. I really, really dug that. That's what worked for me. Somebody did ask a very good question. Oh, before I get to this next question, someone really wanted to let you know I would like to thank Lucas for helping me win a World Series and MLB 19 the show. So congratulations,
Nice.
Lucas. No matter what, you've won a World Series in the show. By the way, are you still in that
There you
tournament
go.
for MLB?
No, that ended about a week, couple weeks ago. I ended up making it to the finals, but I had no chance against Blake Snell.
Really?
He rolled over the competition. Um, I think that when MLB 20 came out, he was just grinding hardcore. He's actually a big time Twitch streamer.
Really?
And so, yeah, so he was grinding that game. He knew all the ins and outs. When the Players League started, I had no idea how to competitively play MLB The Show. I have always been like a casual player. I'd play on like rookie mode. And so I kind of had to crash course learn how to actually play this game properly. I still don't know how to base run great.
I think I think Major League Baseball needs to fix this next year, because if Blake Snell got the game and just crushed it nonstop and you guys walked into it blind, maybe they should like send the game all to you guys at the exact same time, just to kind of level out the playing field a little.
Yeah, so for me, I knew I was going to be in this league maybe like a week before, but I was being a little bit lazy. I just wanted to play Call of Duty instead, and so I had a rough start, but I got better as the tournament went on. Ended up having a very nice playoff run, but no, when I hit Blake Snell, I knew that that was the end of the line for me.
So Leo asks a good question. How did it feel your first major league game? And Alejandro also asked the same question. How did your first major league? How did you feel in your first major league game? Really, they asked the exact same question.
Yes, my story is pretty funny when it comes to that. Obviously, dream come true is the first thing that comes to mind. You're working for that moment in your entire life, but my actual first major league start was filled with a lot of nervousness and anxiety. Actually, I felt confident, I felt ready to pitch, and I wanted to go out and show what I could do. But there was a very long rain delay, and so I was starting the game. I'm sitting in my locker. I put the uniform on for the first time, and I look myself in the mirror, and it's like, wow, you made it. All the crazy emotions that go through your head. And it's like, all right, I got my glove on, got my cleats on, about to go outside. And then our manager, Dusty Baker, comes out and he says, hey, game's on hold, holding pattern. It's raining. I'm like, okay, all right. So I go and I'm all warmed up, ready to go outside and start throwing, but I just got to sit in my locker and kind of chill out. I think the rain delay ended up being like 45 minutes or an hour. So I'm just like sitting there, like I'm just
Jeez.
sitting there, like, oh my god, I just want to go out there and pitch. I want to get the. It's like almost like you want to get it over with. You want to like get over that hump of your debut, and oh man, like that feeling of like, the feeling I had in my stomach of just sitting there like, man, like, is the rain going to let up? And man, I have to wait until tomorrow. Like, what's happening? Ended up clearing up, went out there warming up. After One thing that sticks out in my mind is like after I threw my bullpen when I was when I was walking back from the bullpen to the dugout before the first inning, I felt like I was floating.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was walking on air. The Nationals fans were awesome. They gave me kind of like a standing ovation walking back to the dugout, and kind of that carried out into like my warm up pitches on the mound. Um, but after the first, I faced Curtis Granderson, first at bat ever. After the first pitch, which I threw like 6 feet outside, uh, once I got that one out of the way, it was like, all right, we're good. We're good. It felt like any other baseball game. And we, went to work. Ended up giving up a broken bat base hit to Curtis, which was cool. That's a good way to start your big league career, but ended up being a good start for me. I 4 scoreless innings, and then the rain came back. We had another delay, so I couldn't go back out there, but we ended up winning the game.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Good question here. Garrett would like to know, do you have any superstitions, especially from day
So,
to days?
oh man, I don't have any crazy superstitions. I just on a start day, I want to make sure that I eat a good breakfast. So during the course of a season, when you're eating dinner at like midnight and going to bed at 2, 3 in the morning, a lot of the time I'll just sleep in, and then my breakfast will be at like noon or 1 p.m. On my way to the field or whatever it may be. But on my start day, I'll wake up a little bit earlier, have a nice breakfast, even if I want to go back to bed and like take a nap. I do want to get that good breakfast in. And I don't really have any weird superstitions, like I have to put my shoes on a certain way or anything like that. I don't care about any of that stuff. But it's important to me that I do this thing called CPR, context purpose results. It's with a sheet of paper and a pen. I write down, this is like right after we do the scouting report for the game. So like I'd say maybe an hour and a half before game time. I write down the context, which is like what I want my state of being to be during that day. And a lot of time it will be like aggressive but focused and relaxed, something like that, depending on how I'm feeling about that start. The purpose is like very straightforward, like what the purpose of that game is. So, for example, it's like it's a 3-game series versus the Twins, and they've won one, we've won one. It's like it's like I'm going out there today to start the game, pitch deep. I know that our bullpen's taxed. I need to pitch efficiently so that I can come out of the game late. We have a lead. We end up winning the game, and we have a happy flight, something like that. And then the results is my favorite part. I'll bullet point results that I'd like to see in the game, but I write them in the past tense. So it's like struck out 10 batters, walked 1 or less batters, maintained focus and concentration on every single pitch, 1 pitch at a time, took deep breaths when I needed a reset, things like that. But writing it in the past tense, so it's like it's like tricking your brain into putting yourself in that really positive mindset of like, you already know that you're going to go out there and be successful before it even happens.
Love it. Love it. A couple of last questions for you before we head out. You've been so generous with your time, 40 minutes. And I appreciate you answering our players' questions. And we got, once again, guys, Lucas Giolito here with me. Ask any questions you'd like. But one person that I'm assuming is a parent of one of the kids would like to know, what would you recommend for a 10-year-old to practice on? I know what I would say, but I would love to hear your opinion.
Man, I'd say when you're 10, when I was 10, I was like playing every position. I was actually a better hitter than I was a pitcher at 10. That's like little league.
Pretty young,
man.
Yeah. The advice I always try to give for me to someone who's working with a 10-year-old, like, honestly, yes, play as many positions as you can. Also, I would also recommend play as many sports as you can.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that for sure. My one regret when I think back to my amateur career is that I wish I played a lot more different sports, even in high school. Like, even though I was bad at basketball and I was very uncoordinated, if I'd played basketball in high school, maybe I would have developed some more coordination and athleticism that could have benefited me, and I wouldn't have had to learn all about it when I was like 22, 23. Playing all sorts of different types of sports, huge. When it comes to baseball specifically, I think that when you're 10 years old, you want to focus on like the basic fundamentals, fielding ground balls, just I couldn't tell you anything about hitting. That's more your lane.
Me. I've always been about very simple fundamentals. Keep it as simple as possible, especially that young, and really make sure they're having fun at that age. Make sure baseball's fun, because in my opinion, and I'm sure yours as well, as far higher you get, the more and more it could feel less and less like a game that you're setting out to play, and more like the business that it often is. But if you can, up until my last day, which was this last year, I made sure I had fun every time I was out there, no matter what. And it honestly made the game better for me. I played better. I was better. I was a better teammate. So I'm very big on it, especially make sure you emphasize that baseball's fun.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, it's a game. It's a kid's
game. Did I lose
game.
You, Lucas?
No. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Anybody there? I think either I froze or Lucas froze. But Lucas, buddy, out of nowhere, you're freezing up pretty bad. Those of you who are watching right now, can you guys write me a comment? Make sure you can still see me or hear me. I'm just making sure. Lucas has seemed to cut out. But this has been fun regardless. Hopefully we can get back to us. We ask him one more question and call it a day. Lucas had to, here he is. He's back on. Sorry, man, lost you
Hello?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
can you
I
hear
don't
me?
know. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess just cut out there for a second. A couple last questions, let you get on with your day. And again, thank you so much for joining us and
Hmm.
answering the questions for the kids with the El Paso Border Youth Athletic Association. Mikey's got a great question, and this is a very passionate question for me because this is, especially after retiring, so much of my life is revolved around this. What is sorry, having a little trouble there. How is your diet, your food diet for the major leagues?
Ooh, man. When it comes to food, it's tough for me because I grew up with my dad who's like a
Lucas, you
borderline
there?
chef. Yeah, hello? Hear me? Hello.
Hmm.
Hello.
Sorry, guys. It seems to be another bit of an issue. Might just be internet and connectivity. Trying to get Lucas back on. Let you know in a moment when he is back on. We're gonna get these last two questions out, and then we'll have call it a day. Just trying to get him back on, guys. Been a lot of great questions from you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. No matter what, if we get Lucas back on or if we don't, regardless, I want to thank everybody at the El Paso Border Youth Athletic Association. I want to thank all the There we go. Look at that. See, we knew we can do it.
Am I back? Hello?
I'm back on, just trying to get Lucas back on as well, guys. We will have him back on just in a moment, trying to see if we can get him loaded back up. Regardless, I want to make sure you guys all know that Plateau, me and the guys of the Athletic Border Youth Athletic Association, it's been really cool to have Lucas sit here and talk to us, give you guys, answer you guys' questions, answer my questions. I've known Lucas for a long time, and he is got an amazing family. He's an amazing player, and he's an amazing person. There he is.
All right.
Ah, we did it. One player wanted to know, Mikey wanted to know, what's your diet like?
I'd say my diet is pretty solid. So it's tough for me because I grew up with my dad who's like a borderline chef making gourmet meals every night. So I am used to eating very delicious food. It's hard for me to view food as fuel. That's like a huge thing that like high level athletes it's kind of like the mantra. It's like you have to view food as like fuel for your body. Um, I do like to cheat every once in a while, especially in the big leagues. You go into every clubhouse and it's like you have chefs and they have amazing catering.
Even the
It's
flights too. The flights, the food's amazing. It's ridiculous. I only got one
Yeah.
month in the big leagues, but I mean, I had some very good food.
Oh, for sure. So you go to a place like Philly, you got to make sure you're not crushing too many Philly cheesesteaks. Um, the thing is that we're out running around in the sun so much, and we're lifting and we're working out so much that a lot of time you can burn things off. But a huge thing for me is making sure I'm getting enough protein. When it comes to carbohydrates, I do want to keep it clean. Um, not eating a bunch of processed food, not eating like too many, chips or things like that. Yeah, for me, it's just about getting good meals in, and not overeating as well. One thing for me is I have a big sweet tooth. I'm a big ice cream fan, so can't be crushing too much ice cream. That dairy will get you as well.
Very much. It still gets me anytime. It's a horrible thing that I think. And here's the thing. I'm going to make this the last question, and I just love this question. Joshua Ruiz asked, and we can go ahead and finish up after this. But he wanted to know, what was your biggest motivation that helped you work harder?
Ooh, I'd say my biggest motivation that helped me work harder was the failure. Making it to the big leagues and failing. Going back down to AAA, getting back up to the big leagues. And if you know anything about my career, like 2018 season, I was like statistically the worst starting pitcher in the big leagues. And for me, instead of that happening and then, giving up or, letting it get me down and thinking that, I have this whole mountain to climb, I saw it as like, okay, this happened for a multitude of reasons. One of them being not pitching with enough confidence, not believing in myself enough. Another thing being having a lot of mechanical issues that I knew needed to be addressed, but I was not addressing. And seeing that failure and kind of looking at it and saying, this is never, ever going to happen again. I'm going to do everything in my power to realize my true potential and be the pitcher that I know I can. And so that was like my number one motivator in going into that off season, really grabbing the bull by the horns and making the changes I needed to make.
Mm-hmm. And the work you put in really showed on the field. You went to where you were the year before to being one of the best pitchers in baseball last year. I mean, the work speaks for itself. And you've always been a guy that's worked incredibly hard. But more importantly than that, and it's something you've mentioned kind of offhand, but you've always been just a really good person. So it makes it beyond easy to root for you. You have a great family. You've always treated every player and teammate and fan with the utmost respect. And I don't have enough nice things to say about you. But man, I'm so happy and proud of where you've gotten and where you're even still going. It's really exciting. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today and speaking to our players. It means a lot to me. I have no doubt it means a lot to them, man.
Oh, I really appreciate Cody. And a lot of those things I picked up from you over the years as well. So don't sell yourself short.
You're welcome. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. It was all me. It was all me. Thanks, buddy. Guys, Lucas Giolito. Make sure you follow him on all his socials and stay up with what he's doing when baseball is back. And trust me, eventually baseball will be back, and Lucas is going to be right at the forefront, ready to go. And I cannot wait for everything you do going forward, man. Thank you again for joining us, dude.
Yeah, appreciate it. Of course.
All right. Later, guys. And everybody at the BYAA, thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. Everyone be safe out there. And, let's get ready to get some great work in. All right, guys. That's it for us. Have a good one, guys. Thanks, Lucas.
Thanks.